The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel is Joanne Mercier. Hey, Joanne.
Hey, Dom.
Folks, I want to tell you about another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy. If you like the secrets of tech, you'll love the Let's Science, which is a short, every other week science podcast where you get some great topics. And you should check that out wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/science. So this is a show that almost didn't happen. This week's episode.
Again.
I originally planned to take it off. Last week, we didn't have an episode because I was on vacation. I can tell you that now because I'm back and bad guys won't hear my podcast and come rob my house of all my awesome tech gear. So I can tell you that now. Last week, I was on vacation. And this week, I actually had something, an event this evening. Doesn't really matter. But with the WWDC, I said, I have to talk to Joanne about the about WWDC. This is our thing now. We let Father Corey off the hook. He'll be with us next week. But this is sort of a special extra episode. And yeah, I have to say, I have heard some listeners say, you know, this seems like an Apple podcast. You guys are always talking about Apple stuff. And it's like... Not always, and we cover lots of Linux and we cover lots of Windows and Android stuff. But that said, some of us are very big into our Apple gear, right, Joanne?
Yes, we are.
So in addition, where Apple goes is often where the rest of the consumer tech industry follows. And so what Apple is doing, I think, is important to look at. So, but if this isn't your cup of tea, just realize this episode wasn't going to happen anyway, a few days ago. So you may as well just can it and come back next week. If you are, yeah.
And we're used to the rejection with Father Corey, so no worries there.
Right. So new listeners may wonder, what are you talking about? WWDC? What is this weird acronym? What would Dick Cavett do? I don't know. No, it is Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference. And what that means is this is an annual event that Apple holds where they bring in all of their software developers and they basically lay out their operating system and software roadmap for the next year. And they have a big keynote address at the beginning, which is now always a video ever since COVID, and which this is what the new operating systems are going to look like. And then the rest of the week is devoted to, they have training sessions and all sorts of stuff like that for the developers. But we're interested in that keynote, and so we want to talk about that. Joanne, off the top right now, what did you think of just the keynote itself? I mean, it's gotten very entertaining in recent years.
Yeah, it really has. Anything with Craig Federighi in my book is a scream. The man has a very dry sense of humor, and I love it. So the opening, is going to be outrageous, and I'm sure if people just saw the opening, they'd go, huh? But you have had to have watched it for at least 5 years to know that he's going to do this, and this. Yeah. And he does every single time. But it's a way of looking at it. It's almost a way of Apple making light of itself because it can be so serious.
Right.
When the other presenters get up there and everything is like, they're tight and well done. And especially since they've been recording it. So ahead of time. So, but I love Craig Federighi, and I did love the hair helmet.
Yes. So, and the thing is like developer conferences, and they all do it. Microsoft has a developer conference. Google has them. They all do these developer conferences. They have this sort of tradition of these funny videos. I remember Bill Gates like dancing at one years ago. It was it was really weird. I think he was like in the video game Doom or something. I don't know, I forget what it was. But there's this tradition. But Apple has sort of stepped up their game. The way this one opened was Craig and his crack leadership team at Apple were skydiving out of a plane, being flown by Phil Schiller, who was hysterical to see Phil Schiller there. And his skydiving helmet was a version of his hair. Like it looked like it was literally a hair helmet.
Yeah, he's got one of the, for those who don't know, he has one of those perfect Dick Clark type of hairdos that you swear is fake, but it's really real.
Yeah, he's gotten a reputation for his hair. Anyway, so that is aside. And then there was a brief opening about Apple TV's original content, which wasn't really relevant to the rest of it. Although I do have to mention there was a very prominent throughout several parts of the keynote, Matt Damon's movie that he made for Apple TV set in Boston. So I have to shout out for us there.
Now I have to watch
a car chase. Yeah, it's a high-speed car chase.
And everybody everyone I heard made fun of that. And I'm like, yeah, okay, it's typically Boston. We get it, but not all of us speak that way.
No, we do not. But sometimes, we see it. Anyway, let's get into the meat of it. Let's get into the meat of what happened. First, there was no new hardware announced, which is interesting. Last year, they announced some new Macs, but this year it was straight into the software, and it was basically in two parts, and we'll cover this in two parts. There's all of the first half was all the OSs, and the second half was intelligence. That's how Tim Cook first brought it up, and then they kind of saved their name for it, Apple Intelligence, till they introduced it. And so, but I have to say that AI stuff was sprinkled throughout the whole thing. It just like you can't avoid it because there's a lot of AI stuff in the OS already. But the first thing up was Vision OS, which they announced as version 2, which. Okay, I mean, to me it feels more like version 1 because we've got beta so far. But
1.1,
yeah. So what did you find interesting in the Vision OS stuff? It was a few brief things, but some significant stuff.
Well, since I'm the one around here who strapped that thing on and taken a look at it, I'm still looking at the Mac Visual Display. For someone like me who is not a gamer, and will probably use a device like this for videos a lot, but I also see it as a replacement for my monitors wherever I go. Don't have to carry an extra one, just strap that on, and now it's going to be almost like a 180. Yeah. Not a 360, but a 180, and they said it would be equivalent to 2 4K displays.
Right.
And there's nothing in front of you.
Yeah. It was like an ultra wide. It's just it surrounds you. Yeah, I love that. Like lean into that spatial computing, Apple, because really that's really an interesting area that not everyone else has. Everyone else is focused on the gaming and the entertainment aspects, but Apple is really emphasizing the computing aspects, and I agree that was significant. I also thought there was a few small things like new hand gestures for controlling.
That will get better with time as they find more less like contrived and more realistic hand signals for things. I think that'll keep being developed.
Yeah, they did, and to go along with the spatial computing aspects. They announced mouse support, so you can now use a mouse in addition to the trackpad, whatever. So that's good. They had train support, which I think is interesting. See, and some people asking, like, why would you have specifically support for trains? Well, this is an issue that came up with airplanes. The way it works is the Vision, where you bring up a screen in the virtual space in front of you, in the augmented reality space. You bring up a screen, and it stays there in space. So if you walk into the other room, that screen or whatever stays behind and stays in that place. Well, if you're traveling, like if you're on a plane, you bring up the screen, boom, it's gone. It's like you just left it 100 miles behind you. So they had to come up with a way where it could stay put while you're flying. And so it did, in the plane, it detects speed and altitude. Well, on a train, it's a lot slower, and its altitude is basically, ground level. Right. So they had to come up with a way for it to work on a train as well. And since it's a train, they're adapting. It's probably going to do some like location. Am I on a train track? That sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how they continue to create support for using this thing in more and more places.
And as somebody who uses train rather than plane for most travel, this is important because I'm sure car is the same way. Yeah. Train and car may be similar. Well, train will be a little faster, not always, but car will be, you need to have that same thing in a car as well, because while altitude is not a problem, you're still moving. And if you bring that screen up, it's probably going to be back in Passaic while you're in Virginia.
The guy behind you could watch your video.
There you go. And I don't want him to.
Yeah, no, and you're right. And I know that the car thing is like not to use while you're driving, but we're often passengers in cars. That's fine. Right. Or a bus or, whatever. So we'll see that more. The other big thing, I think, is just announcing more countries. It'll be available in 8 more countries, including the UK and Canada and China. So they're going to continue to roll out.
And I think that may quiet some of the naysayers at this point, because there are people out there saying this is not as significant. This is going to be like the Newton. This is going to be like, something that Apple is going to leave behind. But they don't realize it's not all over the world yet. The minute you get it into hands, and they're right to talk about the medical advances, the teaching advance. They're right to talk about that because this is going to be something that's going to be valuable in certain subsets of people. And that's where they're going to make their dinero to give us, the other
people are already talking about it as if it's a failure, like, they're not selling enough. And it's still a beta product. I mean, I think people are not used to Apple bringing out products that are not mass consumer products right off the bat. But this is the sort of new category of device that needs to get out there into hands. And it's similar to how we heard about the iPhone when it was first introduced, the iPad when it was first introduced, the watch. It's got to get out there, and it's going to be in more hands, and it's going to be, it's going to have to come down in price, and it needs time. This is very early days for this, and so
but I think
I'm bullish.
But I think it's also one of those things where it's going to get smaller. I do believe that it will get smaller, but they need to get all the bugs out of it first. Can you do in a smaller field of vision something that we're doing in a big honking thing you put on your face? So I think, Google Glass has proved we can do it. So, but what can we do? So I think that's where that still is in play. So don't count it out yet. As somebody who got the Apple Watch Zero, I have a lot of faith in the Vision OS. Yeah,
I mean, look at the watches are everywhere now. Apple Watch, everyone's got one. So let's talk about iOS 18, and I want to they separated iOS 18 from iPadOS 18, but frankly they're almost similar. iPadOS has a few extra things that the iOS doesn't, but it's getting everything that the iOS 18 is getting. And so one of the big things that I noticed off the bat was the home screen, where you can now, just like our Android friends have been able to do for a long time, I will acknowledge this, put widgets and icons wherever you want on the screen. I mean, it's still in a grid. You can't just pile them all in a corner. It's still not like your Mac or Windows desktop, but you are going to be able to rearrange things so to leave gaps and stuff. It doesn't have to start at the top left and move down from there, which I appreciate.
Yes, I can hear Father Corey in the distance. We had it first. But, yes. And I can understand why you'd want that, because every picture I have tried to put on either an iPhone or an iPad has always ended up, I can't
partially covered.
Yeah, it gets covered. So somebody finally figured it out and said, let's help the masses and, get their picture and their widgets too.
Right. So what did you see in iOS 18 and iPadOS 18? What did you see that really stood out to you?
Oh, there were a couple of things. One was the adding of the calculator, which I thought was just going to be hype. And of course, I've had pCalc for years.
pCalc is great.
Oh my, they blew that out of the water so much that every kid who's doing geometry and physics is going to want an iPad.
Right.
Because they're going to be able to do things with it that I didn't think could be done.
It is interesting. So they have math notes now, which is going to be in the calculator, which is new to the iPad for the first time. They made a joke about how long it took them to bring a calculator to the iPad, and on the Mac as well, you'll have it. But it's also in Notes. And what you'll be able to do is using the Apple Pencil is to write math equations and formulas, basically, and even create. They showed like creating physics graphs, the demonstrations and that sort of thing. And it reminded me a little bit of the app Solver, Soulver, where it's a math app or calculation app that's different from a calculator in that you type out things like I often have to do time-based math for our shows, and so I'll write 22 for minutes plus 32 seconds, plus 58 minutes, because everything is 60 based, but it will do the math for me, that sort of thing. And variables, it offers variables and that sort of thing. So it was very interesting to see how smart Math Notes is. And now you mentioned, every kid who has geometry and physics will want it. The way it looks, you might be able to get some answers from it, but you're still going to need to understand the basics of it. It eliminates some of the drudgery, but you still have to understand the principles. And I don't think people need to be afraid of it. That kids will cheat like we talk about with kids using ChatGPT to create essays. I don't think that's a proper way to look at it. But it did look interesting.
And you can put it in Notes. So it works not only on its own, but it works in Notes. And Notes is becoming a very, very powerful app now, which I'm surprised. I'm very happy to see because I switched from Evernote to that.
And it was one of the things they talked about in Notes was this smart script where it recognizes, not only does it recognize your handwriting, which it's been able to do, but it will adjust your handwriting on the fly to make it more attractive, more regular, improves it, shall we say, improves your handwriting. But it's still your handwriting, they say. I'll be curious to see how that works.
And I can understand why, because writing on glass is so different than writing on paper. And even somebody who has penmanship, awards, not like my husband who is penmanship challenged, I might be able to read his stuff now, which would be really great. But I write on the glass and I look at my penmanship and go, ew, has it gone down that much? But it's very different because of the way the pencil interacts with the glass. So for it to clean itself up now, I think I'll be using a pencil more often rather than just, getting frustrated and go back to typing.
That's true. What was the other thing with I wanted to look at was the smart script improves the appearance. Oh, you can also do this thing where, we'll talk about the AI because there's another aspect of something you do in Notes, which is really cool. But that's more AI based. You could paste typed text into your handwritten notes and it will show up as your handwriting. That was pretty cool.
That's going to be interesting.
There's also Control Center has been improved. So you can have pages of Control Center icons. So separate them into categories. So groupings by categorization. There'll be a controls gallery. You can adjust and resize the controls. And then there'll be an API. Yes, because some of them can be pretty small. And developers will be able to add controls for their apps into Control Center, so that'll be nice.
I think that's a good idea with control. You know, people don't use control panel or don't know how to use control panel. And as somebody who uses it in different places, like I use it at home and at work on Apple products. So for me to have two separate sets of controls will be very helpful.
Yeah, that is good. The other thing they said in relation to this is you'll be able to swap out the on the home screen, on the lock screen. Right now we have a flashlight and the camera button, but some people may want to swap out those controls for different controls. Like maybe they don't ever use the flashlight, or they don't ever access the camera from the lock screen. They can put other controls there, which I think is great. I think more customization is great.
And what I wish they would do, though, and this could only be me, so correct me if I'm wrong. Every time I try to go use either of those controls, the screen tries to go up. It tries to open itself. And I get very frustrated trying to tap to get the flashlight on or tap to get the camera to come up. So I wish they would fix that. I should probably put that when I do the beta this year, say, could you please stop doing that? Because it's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I don't have that issue. I think it's a matter of
Could be me.
Yeah, it just might be the way you are accessing it. I mean, you have to, like, the way it has to be done, and they probably have trained me, is I just put my thumb directly on it. You know, I just right on it and don't move, just on it, and then it will open. But yeah, I have had times where I've tried to access it, and you know, I'm moving around or I'm walking or whatever, and it wants to open it as opposed to slide up.
Now I see. Now I've just done that. I'm holding on to that button. It's taking 30 seconds, and it finally came on.
That's weird. Yeah, my phone. It was my thumb just goes right on it, and it opens. So another thing was some privacy stuff. We all had the thing where we want to give someone our phone to look at a photo or watch a video or type their number into our messages or app or that sort of thing. But it's always kind of a little bit fraught because your phone has so much of your data and information and stuff on it, and handing your phone over to someone can be problematic. So what they have done is they've given you the ability to lock apps so that they require Touch ID or Face ID or whatever it is your phone can do. And so the information from that app won't appear in search or notifications, so that if someone has your phone, and this is good also for, let's say, crossing borders, when with security services, even if you unlock your phone, hand over your unlocked phone, they can't get into stuff. Or in my case, more commonly is kids. I sometimes lend out my device so the kids can play a game on my iPad, or I was giving my daughter my iPad so she can use Procreate to do drawing. And it's like, I just don't, she's older, so I'm not too worried, but it's just that idea that they can accidentally or on purpose, I suppose, you get into things that they shouldn't.
Like your financial apps. Right.
Now,
credit cards, wallet.
Right. My bank app already requires, Face ID, which is great. So, but other apps, and sometimes, I know what they're talking about. They're talking about sometimes people have photos that are private or whatever, I suppose. Yes. But there's other use cases as well. It's not just that sort of thing. And they even let you hide an app if you want. And that's I'm not sure why that would be. I mean, because I just can't. I'm trying to think of where I would want to hide an app from somebody that isn't problematic.
Well, I can think I hope, and I think Apple's pretty good about this, that there will be a parental control on that so that the parents can set it so the kid doesn't try to hide an app, because there's where you get into trouble. Kids want to hide their apps, like their messages or WhatsApp or whatever, so their parents don't know what they're doing. I'm hoping there's going to be a parental control for that.
Right. Because, like some parents will not want their kids on TikTok or Snapchat or whatever, and they won't allow those apps on there. But if the kid can hide it, and sometimes there are apps that are secret vaults where they have or secret communications. They look like a calculator app, but they're really something else. So that's something to think about. So, and then they talked about controlling. This was big. I think a lot of people haven't talked about it. Sometimes when you set up a new app or create an account, the app helpfully wants to look at all of your contacts to see what other of your friends might be on our thing and connect to you. Yeah, that's a way for them to farm data, and you don't want to do that in general. I never allow apps to look at my contacts. Well, now they allow you to limit the number of which contacts you could allow it to see. So maybe I really do have a group of my family that I'm okay with an app seeing their contacts, so I can connect with them on, say, WhatsApp or whatever. But I don't want all my work business related contacts. So you can wall those off from those apps. That's a nice one. I mean, if you have a celebrity in your life who you happen to have their phone number, you don't want to be giving that out to somebody, to some company.
The only celebrity I have is an archbishop who shall remain unnamed. So that's about it. But I'm sure he's a geek, so no worries there.
Yeah.
I like the stuff they're doing with messages. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big tap back person, but a lot of my friends are. So I've heard the complaints about it. I hate the tap backs because you can't do much with them. Now you're going to be able to do everything you want. So go for it. Enjoy yourself.
Right. Yeah, tapbacks were limited to just a handful of different ones, but now it's fairly unlimited. You can use any emoji, I'm pretty sure, or stickers. I love the idea of scheduling messages for us to send later.
Yes.
Because there are times when, like just this morning, I had an issue where I wanted to. I'm like, I have to send a message to this guy, but he's out in the West Coast, and it's 7:30 in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning here. It's 5. I don't want his phone to ding at 5 a.m. And so it's like, I'll have to wait, and hopefully I'll remember. I would love to be able to schedule that to send in 3 hours when he's probably awake. So I love the idea of scheduling.
That's a great idea because, we do get our best ideas sometimes at 11 o'clock at night. So it's like, I can't send this now, and then I got to try to remember to do it in the morning. But if I can do it and set it and then it goes, fine. I'm really going to appreciate that. Then also this whole thing with satellite, which is why I now have to wait for a 16. I got to get the new phone.
Yeah, the idea. So any of the phones that can do the emergency satellite stuff already, like which basically iPhone 14 and iPhone 15 at this point. You can now, when you're off the cell grid, you can actually send text messages. So it doesn't have to be just an emergency message. You can send and receive text messages as long as you have. It's very specific. You have to have line of sight to a satellite. That's the big issue. And so you got to get out either in an open field or on top of a hill. But like just this past week when I was in upstate New York, I was in a particular area between Lake George and Fort Ticonderoga. I had no signal, and I was getting that satellite thing on my phone, which is the first time I've seen it. And it's like, if I were stuck here, I would, or if I just wanted to communicate with somebody from here. I'm often camping with the Scouts, and there are places that are dead zones. So it would be nice to be able to message my wife, hey, we're going to be a little late, or something along those lines. So I like that idea. I'm curious how it will work in practice, and whether it will cost more or less, because I can't imagine. I mean, they've talked about it's free for now, the satellite stuff. I can't imagine that it's all that cheap to do this.
No, but I also think if it starts to get misused, then they will probably put a charge to it to keep people from, clogging up. I don't know if you can clog up a satellite, but, just clogging up the back and forth.
Right. Or if it just gets expensive for them.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see how long it's going to be, air quote, free.
Yeah. Other interesting improvements on the iOS is mail, and on Mac on this one, is getting categorization of mail. It's basically copying Gmail. primary transactions, updates and promotions. I don't know how this will work and how this will work with SaneBox. I basically prefer to use sanebox.com to categorize my mail for me. I've used it for a decade now. I like it. I pay for that. I don't really use Gmail's version of it. I don't pay attention to their categorizing. So that'll be interesting to see. But I do like this idea of digest view, where it pulls together all emails from a business into one place. So like if United Airlines, was their example. If you're, taking a bunch of flights, all your emails from them will be in one place. I like that idea.
Here's one that I think Pat's really going to like is the screen sharing in SharePlay.
Yes.
Where you get to share your screen with somebody else and help them fix things. That's going to be very helpful.
And then the other part of that is, so you can share your screen to someone else and show yourself doing things. Right. But you can also request that they let you control their device remotely. And this is the one thing we haven't really been able to do on iOS that we wanted to do from the beginning. You can do this on Mac in various different ways and Windows and desktop computers, but doing this on your iPhone and iPad, that's big.
And this is also an education thing. Because a lot of times teachers now can get on these iPads and say, no, you're doing it wrong. Here's what you need to do. And, and that's going to be big in the classroom as well. Kids may not want their teachers to do it, but I think it's going to be a help in the education field.
Couple other things that in the iPadOS, Maps is getting topographic and trail maps. So if you're an outdoors person, this is really nice. I don't think it'll replace something like All Trails, which has a lot of other social features and a lot more detail in your maps. But it's nice to get a nice topographic map. That would be very handy. Yeah.
And I do have an issue with one of the, number one, Journals is getting
Search.
beefed up a little bit. But why can't we have Journals on iPad?
Yeah, that's still weird.
I think I know why. I think it's because of day one. And
I don't think Apple cares about Sherlocking.
No, because I think they've Sherlocked at least 25 things in this so far all of this. But I'm seeing, myself not journal as much as I like to. So I'm questioning whether or not I should do another subscription year of day one. But I also don't use my phone as a journal. I use either the iPad or the Mac. So I'm kind of stuck in la for when because I'm not quite sure where to go with this. So Apple, if you're listening, move it along, get it on the others.
I'm a longtime day one user, and I do most of my day one on my Mac. When I was away, I don't like typing long stuff on my phone. So I had my iPad with me, so I would type out my journal entries, because I like to keep like a log of what we do on vacation, just so I can look back on it in the future. But I would type it out on the iPad, save it to drafts, and then just copy it over to the phone, from there into day one on my phone. I could have done it directly I forget why I didn't do it on the iPad in day one. I think the phone day one app adds things to the entry automatically, location and weather and that sort of stuff that the iPad doesn't. I think that's why I was doing it that way. Okay. So the journals improvement, Apple Pay, tap to cash. So you can now transfer money between phones directly, which is nice too with the tap. I mean, you could send cash to people. I've done that with my kids to give them some spending money. But now you don't, but that's like, it was like send it to an address. Now you can just, as long as the phones are near each other, you can do it.
Well, we have to do it in iMessages. It's not something you can do off of that. So now it's just open your wallet, tap your phone, you're done.
Yes, that's right. So that's really nice. And then the Photos app gets a big redesign, some changes.
Yeah, I'm surprised. It was kind of looking a little like Mylio. And I'm sitting there goes another one.
Another app, yeah. But it's basically a single unified view, like everything's on one page now, which I think is better because it's, like where are the memories thing? It's under for you, but these are all my photos. They're all for me. You know what I mean? It's like, it was strange before. I like it now. I like the idea that you can filter content. So there's like a filter button by type of content. It creates intelligent collections. This is more that AI stuff, so you can browse by time, by people, favorite memories. Has a recent days thing that organizes by day, filtering out the clutter like screenshots and receipts. So a lot of this.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say a lot of this just machine language, AI stuff to improve these so you can making a new memory that the automatic memories have been fine, but making a new one has been cumbersome. Well, now it looks like it's a lot easier to do. It's a lot smarter about helping you create memory slideshows for yourself. So I like that.
And I know they're doing this because they're trying to, of course, Sherlock a few people, but I think they still don't get the idea that some of us are very nervous about having our photos only be in one place. And I think they need to understand that there's always going to be a secondary place that most of us are going to do this. So I think I'm just out there with this. I think what they're trying to do is come as close to the other ones as possible. Like I use Synology photos because I have the Synology. What they're proposing they're going to do now looks a lot like that. I've had Melio, looks a lot like that. So I think they're trying to at least be uniform. But you still need to have your photos in a couple of places,
right?
Because if not, you could end up losing a very precious memory and then, shaking your fist at Apple. And
I've never heard of anyone losing their stuff in iCloud, but that doesn't mean it can't happen,
right?
Or even that you could accidentally do something that would happen. That's why I always recommend I have Google Photos and Amazon Photos on the apps on my phones. I open up those apps every once in a while and let those upload as backups into those clouds. So I think that's the iOS, iPadOS. Most of that. I mean, there was a lot of stuff, but I think those are the highlights. Let's talk about audio and home before we get to the others. AirPods was a nice improvement. Was nod to answer Siri, so you can. Siri could say, "Hey, you've got an incoming call from," I think it was, what would they say, Mima or something, like your grandma. This guy's standing in a crowded elevator, and when you're in certain spaces, you don't want to say stuff out loud. You want to, it would be weird.
People think you're talking to them.
Yeah. Yes. Answer call. You're like, it's like, yes. What? I didn't ask you anything. So you can nod or shake your head. And I think that's a nice little improvement. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. I do like that. And I also like the voice isolation because I have a lot of friends who's, because I'm in the car and I'm hoping, I don't know if it'll work in the car. I think it's just the AirPods, but even when I'm out with the dog, I have a lot of people saying, what's going on in the background?
Right.
Nothing, I think it's hopefully now.
This is AirPods. This is it's not AirPods. Just the phone speakerphone, which would be nice on the speakerphone as well. But at least on the AirPods, that'll be good. I find people have a hard time understanding me when I'm on the phone with AirPods. I'm not sure why. It could be just me. I don't know. So it'll be interesting. They had some tvOS improvements. This new thing they called Insights, which is basically a copy of Amazon's X-Ray thing. Yeah. So it tells you who the actors are and what song is playing. And that's fine.
That's okay because nobody's on Amazon Prime anymore since the ads. So now if we can have that feature in Apple TV Plus, I'm all for it.
That's right. They have enhanced dialogue. So they've always had the thing where you can enhance dialogue, but they're improving it, making it a little more using machine learning to improve it. It's situationally, contextually. So that's nice. And
I think it's also been either hidden or you have to use it in conjunction with something else, which is why I've tried. I think there is already something on the Apple TV that's supposed to let you do that, but I think you either have to be in Dolby Atmos or something else.
And it's in settings. Yeah.
I've tried it and it doesn't do much. And my poor husband's still sitting there going, I can't understand what they're saying.
Which is why I have subtitles on all the time now. And they're improving the subtitles as well, so that even if you don't have subtitles on all the time, they will pop up automatically when you, like, they've had a thing now where if you say to your Apple TV, hey Siri, what did they just say? It will pop back 10, 15 seconds and replay it. So this is a little hack. It'll replay it and it will put the subtitles on because you obviously couldn't understand them the first time.
Sorry. Not sure about that.
Sorry, I just accidentally activated
Be quiet.
slow-mo. Quiet slow-mo. I forget that I turned Alexa off, but I there's no way to turn off.
Oops, you just turned on 12 people's Hey, Alexa.
Sorry. So in any case, so they've enhanced the subtitles. They said they've made them easier to access, which would be nice because I find it hard to turn the subtitles on and off. It's not easy. The other thing I really like is a new photos and slideshows screensavers. In the old Apple TV, there was a way to have it just show all of my photos on my TV, and my wife and I would sit and just watch the photos, go by on the screen of, the kids and stuff for years past. I mean, it was actually a kind of entertainment, and they changed it. And so that it had to be either memories or an album. And I'm like, neither of those really is the same. So what they're bringing it back so that you can have photos, but they're using machine learning to highlight the best photos, and you can tell it to show me people or the people most important to me, and it will highlight that. So I'm looking forward to having those back as a screensaver.
And Snoopy. That's where Snoopy should be, is on the screensaver. Because on my watch, unless you put a complication in there somewhere, just useless. Yeah. I love Snoopy. Yeah. But this is where to put Snoopy.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah. I love seeing that Snoopy show up more and more places. They also talk about having a new 21:9 format and some other stuff like that, which is fine. So that's audio and home. There wasn't anything AirPods HomePod related, which I thought was interesting, and nothing HomeKit really came up as well. So this.
Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more in HomeKit, and what I'm hoping for is in September with hardware that there's a new Apple TV that will take care of some of these new things and be a little bit snippier and that kind of stuff. But I can wish,
yeah. It's been a while since the Apple TV 4K has been out for a few years, so it might be time for them to upgrade that. Mm-hmm. So on the watch, there was basically a couple things. They had this new training mode. I'm not a workout guy. If you see me in any videos, you probably tell. But it for people who are very much into fitness and athletics, it's about tracking your intensity over time, and so that looked interesting. I like the fact that you can pause your rings too. That's another one. If you're sick, you don't lose your streaks. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, and I liked the check-in feature. That I think is again, I'm into safety, and that's and I've tried to sell people on this watch because it's a safety for older people. And if you're going somewhere and you can use your watch to check in with somebody else that should know where you are, then that's a really good thing.
Yeah, so you turn it on. It can be part of even of a workout. So, like if you're going for a jog, you can hit a check-in. You turn check-in on, and someone that you trust will know where you are, and and be able to track you. And then when you're done, get a notice that you're done. I think it is, or if you don't finish or something like that over a period of time, it will also alert them and that sort of thing. So, it's a nice feature. I mean, it really goes to some of the unfortunate stuff in the news lately of women being attacked while out jogging or exercising. And so I'm glad that they didn't say that specifically, because it's not the sort of thing they would say, but I'm glad that they're thinking of that. They have new vitals tracking. So they bring all of your health vital status together in one place. So I like that we can, because all that stuff is there in the health app, but it's kind of hard to track down sometimes.
You got to try to look for it. You're always flipping the screen trying to look for it.
there's so much data in the health app. This is a nice way to bring it in one place. So I like that. And it will highlight it when your stuff is out of your normal range. And that's good. The other thing, there's a bunch of other stuff, but the one thing that really stands out to me was the on-watch language translation. You know, we're getting so close to the Star Trek communicator. It is not funny. I mean, this is almost a universal translator right there. You could, speak into it and it will verbally, translate, and vice versa. So you have someone else speak and then you can hear what they said translated. It's amazing to me. We're living in the future.
I need that because I work in a collaborative with a Portuguese speaking parish. And even though my Portuguese is above rudimentary, there are sometimes I still can't communicate with people nor understand a homily. Yeah. So I'd love to be able to put that on my watch or my phone and just sit there and be able to understand what's going on.
My parish, we have both Haitian and Cape Verdean. And so when we have like Pentecost masses, we have 3 homilies. And the Haitian is usually in French. I took French for many years in school.
French Creole.
And so, but actually, no, the homily is usually in French, like not Creole, which is interesting, how they do that liturgically. But even then, it's hard for to follow along. It would be great if I could put my earpods in and listen to the translation live as we went. That would be really cool.
Believe me, I would like to do that because I have to do programs in 2 languages. So it'd be nice to just be able to say, open your watch or open your phone and here's where we're going.
That would be great. All right, so let's move on to Mac OS Sequoia. I wrote Sonoma down. That's funny.
Well, that's because that's what we're in right now, but it's. Yeah. I thought it was going to be Grand Teton, but
well, that's not California, so that wouldn't be.
It's true.
They only do California stuff, but everyone's talking about how we get the confusion between Sonoma and Sequoia, but I'm like, people are just not gonna be able to know how to spell it,
right?
But that's fine. Mac OS is going to get math notes and maps and a lot of the other stuff that was in iOS and iPad OS updates. But the big one that I thought was really interesting was continuity. So you got iPhone mirroring, which some more apps have been Sherlocked by that, where you can put your iPhone on your screen and interact with it remotely. So your phone can be in a bag across the room, but you're controlling your phone. In fact, my wife and I were just having this issue last night. She was trying to log into the CBS app, which is one of the worst apps out there.
Yep.
And they want her to, enter in a code and where's her password. And I'm like, I hate doing this on the phone. If we could bring it up on the computer screen, I can just copy it from 1Password on my Mac and just paste it in on the phone. You know what I mean? It would have been so much easier. And that's one of the things that you can do. And your iPhone notifications can appear on your Mac screen alongside your Mac notifications. You can interact with them. You can play audio from your phone on your Mac speakers. And all this time, the iPhone stays locked or in standby mode or whichever is that you got it, which is a great security thing. So I really love this. I really hope it works. I use continuity with my iPad in my Mac, but it's not seamless. There are times when for some reason it's just not seeing the iPad that's sitting right there next to the Mac. It's kind of frustrating at times. I hope they start improving that.
I'm hoping for this because this may be my answer to the Journal app. Being able to bring that up on the screen and being able to type into it. So that might be the answer. But yes, I've had the same problem with continuity between Mac, iPad, iPhone. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes my cursor just won't go off that screen and I need it to go
right.
onto the iPad. So if they fix that and this works, that is really a game changer because then the phone can stay wherever it is and I can just call it up and then the phone stays the way it is. So if somebody else comes along, they're not watching what you're doing. That feature is a good feature. I like that.
Yeah. That's the big one for me. Another one they mentioned from like they have the window tiling, which is basically what Moom and Magnet and some other apps like that do. I'm probably going to stick with Moom because it's a lot more customizable than what they were showing. And that's when we say Sherlocked, it's an old term that refers to like when the operating system incorporates features in it that third-party apps have been doing and basically makes the third-party app redundant or unnecessary. But in many cases, even though Apple is putting these features in, they're not as full featured as the third parties. For example, like Journal and Day One. Day One has many more features than Journal, but Journal is a basic app that gets people into that and maybe move on to Day One or Calculator and PCalc or that sort of thing. So I don't worry for Moom. In fact, I think it'll help because more people will be looking for that sort of thing. But
speaking of Sherlocking, here it comes.
Yeah.
We are now going to have a password app instead of having it stuck in the control panel somewhere.
Yeah. So, and people are like, oh, I'm not going to need 1Password anymore or Bitwarden or these third parties. And I'm sure for a lot of people, that's true. Actually, you may be able to get rid of 1Password, but not for me. I think partly because for me, 1Password is not just a personal thing. It's also a work thing. We have shared vaults that we use for work. And I don't see this having like there are sharing groups within the Passwords app. But I think that's more about it's intended more for like your family group. I don't see that as a professional sharing like because I have a third party like a group vault that everyone can access who's in SQPN, on the SQPN 1Password. But then I can do individual sharing with individuals. So 1Password seems more full featured. That said, I love the idea that they have a password app now for everyone, because I've tried to convince people to get password apps in the past, and we talked about it so many times on the show. It's just hard for people to get people to see the importance and take those steps and go out and get it. Well, now it's just going to be there. You're going to have it no matter what. So I just love that idea.
And I'm hoping that this will get my husband to finally use it, because I have Bitwarden. I have it for the family, and he still doesn't use it. So I swear I'm wasting a subscription. And this is another place where I'm going to cut subscription because he's not using it. And if I can get him to use this and we can share and I know how to get into his stuff, then fine. I'm good.
Yep. So another one is Safari improvements. A few things, not as big as in recent years. They've had a few improvements. One thing is they've redesigned the reader mode. So reader is where it takes a app and a web page, and it takes all the cruft out and shows you just the text and photos in a simplified format. Well, now with the machine learning stuff, it's going to also provide you with a table of contents and a summary, so it'll summarize web pages. So that looks pretty cool. A lot of automatically highlighting relevant info. Like, how many times have I gone to a web page for a company or a store or something, and like, just tell me where you are, like, or what's your phone number? It will automatically pop some of that stuff up, which is really nice. So I like those improvements that we're going to start to see. What about you, Joanne? What else do you?
Well, I'm just going to let's bring it up. We haven't said one word about gaming. Because I'm not a gamer, but apparently through the entire OS system, they are improving gaming quality. So for those of you out there to whom this is a big deal, this is going to help you, because I know a lot of people do choose between Windows and Mac because of the gaming issues. But this supposedly, because of the M1s, M1 and up, this is supposed to be a game changer. Notice what I did with that for them.
I think, we've started to see more, Class A games on the Mac, like Baldur's Gate and things like that. And they made a big deal about the new Assassin's Creed game coming out. So this will be nice to see. The game porting toolkit is improving its Windows compatibility. Someone who's like an uber gamer who spends thousands of dollars on Windows gaming machines is not going to suddenly go to a Mac. But this is just nice for Mac users who we've always been second-class citizens when it comes to games. Civilization 7 has been announced recently, and it's one of those things where it's always been on the Mac, and every time a new game is coming, I'm like, oh, can you please still be on the Mac? Please stay on the Mac, like that sort of thing. It's we've always been, please sir, may I have another? We've always been the beggars at the table, so it's nice to see some of the games things. I noticed that they had Valheim, which I've been playing on my Steam Deck. So I immediately went to the App Store and picked that up for $9.99. So that was nice to see. So it'll be interesting to see, with all this power under the hood. I mean, when I get these games, I've got this new Mac Studio. I always crank up all the settings. So it's really nice to see that we can use this.
And all of this is Greek to me, but hey, I love Barry Manilow. So there you go.
There you go. All right, we're going to talk about Apple Intelligence next, but before we do, I would like to, take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Joshua C., Sam D., Nick H., James D., and Brian S. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. All right, let's get into Apple Intelligence. So they start with like a bunch of buzzwords, like they talk about they're motivating principles where it has to be powerful, intuitive, integrated, personal, and private. These are their big things. And so one of the big things that distinguishes it from other AI attempts by the other big companies, Google, Microsoft, and OpenAI, is they very much focus on the personal context. This isn't, like they said right out, this isn't about world knowledge. This is about your information, your data, making it more useful to you. And so they kind of approach this in three categories: capabilities, architecture, and experiences. And so for capabilities, they talk about language capabilities. They have this new writing tools toolbar that will show up everywhere. That a lot of these AI things you've seen in apps lately have, summarize, rewrite, that sort of thing. Joanne, was anything in the capabilities area that really stood out to you?
Nothing. Well, I use ChatGPT now instead of Google. Because when I type something in, and you also turned me on to that lovely app.
Perplexity?
Perplexity, right.
Yeah.
Because I can ask it a question in English, and it will give me an explanation in plain English. And that's what I like, rather than just bringing up a bunch of sites that then I have to go in. I get real technical and say, when we're recording this, this is the day Tom Brady is going to be inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame.
Yes.
I wanted to know where to go and view that online or with TV. So I said, where can I watch? And it gave me a dotted explanation of this is where where you can go. If Apple manages to do this with privacy, and with its claim of if we don't have the info, we'll ask you if you'd like to go elsewhere. And if Siri can give me an answer in plain English to something other than setting my timers, then Apple is going to have done what a lot of people have wanted them to do, or anybody to do.
Right. Those are the two big things here. So let's talk about the privacy aspect. They said everything that they can do will be done on device. This is not a surprise, right? This is kind of why Apple has been behind Google in Android and Microsoft, because they've been so adamant about being on device. This is why Siri is not as good as Android and that sort of thing. But so they'll do everything they can do on device. And then when it encounters an issue that it doesn't have the power or capability to do it on device, it will move to something called the private cloud compute, which is kind of a virtual machine that it creates on the fly that your data goes into, processes, gives you back your answer, and then deletes. And they were so, adamant about your data is not staying there. We don't see your data. We are opening it up for transparency. Anyone can come in and look at the code and the servers and ensure that we're living up to our word. So it's very important. I know people who work in the legal profession or in the medical profession. Like I use, they say I use ChatGPT for things, but for other things, I don't use it because I can't have this data go in the cloud. Or like Grammarly for grammar checking. I can't use Grammarly on this stuff because I can't put that data in the cloud. And well, this is a situation where apparently it looks like you can. And then one step up from that, where your AI request has to do with more general world knowledge, then it will ask you, do you want to use ChatGPT? And it will open up an anonymous session with ChatGPT, ask the question, and then disconnect. That ChatGPT cannot associate that request with you. So you're still private. Now, they have that information on their servers, but that doesn't mean they can associate with you. However, if you have an OpenAI account, you can log in and get the advantage of that, which is ChatGPT, if you have an account with them, can use the context of what it knows about you so far. Like you can give it information about yourself, but you can also get your previous searches and use that to give you better answers. So at every level, there are these options and abilities that you can give more and more of your privacy away or change the dial on your privacy, put it that way. But I think it's a good approach.
Yeah. And see, Apple has already proven this to us with Wallet, when we use our wallets, it's the card company gets a token and not our
your
card.
Actual
not the actual numbers
right.
or the expiration or the CSV code. So if they can expand that now into this, which means more server farms, more checks and balances, then Apple can say, we can do this in a very safe way and keep you both safe and use your personal information that you use all the time to better get you responses.
That's the big thing. So they talked about improving the S Lady. Right now, whenever you talk to the S Lady or even Alexa, you have to give it very canned, specific ways of talking to it. We've trained ourselves to speak in ways that those people in a box, assistants in a box, can help us. But it's more natural language. So you can speak more naturally to it, and you get answers back that are more relevant, more personal. It will, even if you stumble or pause, which is a big issue. My son has a stutter, and so it's very difficult sometimes for him to use. Yeah. He uses mostly Alexa. He'll stutter, and it will say, "I can't help you," because it thinks he's done. And it's like, it's so frustrating for me to see him struggle with it. And sometimes I kind of haven't thought through exactly my question, so I can pause, or I can. If I stumble, you can continue. And then it follows the conversational context. Like with Siri now, you can't just, I had to look over and make sure I didn't activate
it.
You can't just say, follow up, like, what is this? Okay, but what about that? Okay, schedule that. Right. You can't do that now. You should be able to do this with this new one.
Yeah, hopefully, because it's been hard to train my husband to give the S Lady the command correctly so that he gets the response he needs. He's always just talking to it. And I'm like, Kev, you can't say, what do you mean? You can't say it that way. You need to say. So when I heard this, I'm like, this is the answer to my prayers, because now if we can talk to it and, do a little bit of back and forth, he's not going to be frustrated, because when she gets frustrated and starts to twirl, he just pulls the plug. And we don't want more of that. So but I will believe the S Lady is going to actually work for us when I finally hear it. Because this is something they've promised for many, many years. Yeah. Please just do it, Apple. Just rip the Band-Aid off.
I remember a few years ago, I was with my elderly dad. He was in his 80s, and he was using his phone. He wanted to find out what time the Sox game was. And so he says, what time is the game? The Sox game, the one that's tonight. and it's like it couldn't do anything with that, whereas today that's the promise. Now Apple's been working on this AI stuff for a long time. They hired a guy away from Google, their chief AI guy, like 6 years ago. And they've known that Siri is bad for all this time. Mm-hmm. So, because they have to use it every day, And so I think they've been working on it. They know they can't screw this up. They've been waiting until they had something good. The thing to keep in mind is they didn't give us a timeline for when all these things are going to be available. Later this year, over the next year. So things will roll out over time. I would hope that at least the better Siri interactions is there on day one of iOS 18. That's going to have to be there.
But I appreciate them not trying to roll everything out at once, because as somebody who does use beta and sees what happens when you try to overload the operating system all at once, it's like, no, don't do that. But I think it'll also get people, I think it'll also bring confidence in people. And I think they have to get the confidence factor back for all of us, Apple fans included, who just say Siri is a heaping pile of hurt.
That's a nice way to put it. And then you'll be able to also switch between writing to Siri and voice to Siri, like back and forth. There are occasions when you don't want to talk out loud. Yeah. So that'll be good. Then let's see, the writing tools they mentioned, rewrite to give you different versions of your written, which is nice. Proofreading, summarize, Sherlock and Grammarly, smart replies in email, suggesting responses with follow-on questions based on the email context, what seemed really interesting to me. Email summaries. So when you look at your email, the mail app, they'll often have like the subject line and then the first bit of the message just under it, which is supposed to give you like an idea of what the message is about. But sometimes it's just like that. It's useless. It's just whatever, folderol. This will instead give a smart summarization of the email, which is nice. I like that idea. And also a new focus mode called reduce interruptions to surface only the notifications that are immediately relevant, which is a interesting idea. We'll have to see how that goes.
Well, hopefully it'll take out all the spam that I get.
Yes, right.
That would be nice.
Then there was the whole generative content thing. So they have this new thing called Genmoji, which you create a custom emoji from a description. I've seen a couple apps that do that, so we're Sherlock in them. So you can say pony, swimming pool, cupcake, and you'll get something that combines those. You can even make a Genmoji from a friend's image, which I'm sure will never be used in a terrible way.
Of course not.
Although it was very interesting. They are very limited in what types of images you can create. It will be either animation, sketch, or illustration. No photoreal image generation. This is not Sherlocking Midjourney or DALL-E. Those are still going to be useful for a lot of things. This is very specific, I think, in what it's going to allow you to do. Because
kids can take things and try to make it real, and
or adults,
other kids.
Frankly.
Well, that's true too, but I'm
deep
thinking
fakes,
more teenagers.
All right. Well, I'm thinking like deep fake stuff, where you could get photoreal images of people doing things, you don't want that. Apple's staying away from that. So that's good. They have a new app for doing a lot of this stuff that if you want to do it in an app called Image Playground. So that looks interesting. Image Wand is something you can have in Notes app. So you can take a rough illustration and turn it into a polished illustration, or start from scratch. Just take a blank space and circle it or something, and it will, based on the rest of what's in the note, create an image that fits. I think it's fascinating. I like this idea.
This is where I'm saying Notes is becoming extremely powerful in a lot of, I don't think we've yet scratched the surface of what it's going to be integrated between all the products. Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I've got a frog in my throat.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm jealous of college students, students right now, because I would have loved to have stuff like this when I was in school, when I was in college, taking notes. Like I took notes by typing them into my laptop. I had a PowerBook 520C at the time. And so you can, how long ago that was. And so, the idea of being able to write on a screen and make illustrations, that's been around for a few years with an iPad. But now to take it to the next level, which is take my terrible illustrations, because I have no drawing ability, and turn that into something that is actually useful for me in the future, when I can go back and go, oh, that's what I was trying to do there. Yeah, I like this.
Well, and you know, I don't care what other people say. Some people are visual learners, so they will sketch things rather than write, because that jogs the memory when you take a test. So, you know, this is going to give them the capability of not just looking at stick figures and saying, what did I mean by that? But give them something a little bit more concrete that will jog their memory.
Yeah, I love this idea. We've had machine learning stuff in photo editing for a while, like removing distracting background content, but they're going to give us natural language search in photos and videos. Oh, please. Thank you. Like just finding a particular image in my vast photo library can be a frustrating experience, because you can't just go, show me a picture of one of the kids. He had a ball and I think we were in Maine. Like, no, it's like I can now do that. Like it bring it up, including finding stuff inside the middle of a video clip, which I think is amazing. You know, people doing things. So I like that. You can also create new memories, you know, that whole memory thing, from a typed description. I like that, where just create a memory that is of our June 2024 vacation upstate. Focus on all of our the things we were doing during the day, you know, or whatever. You know, you could do that. That looks amazing.
Yeah, you know, the crack marketing team said it best. This is AI for the rest of us.
Well, and that's you know, playing off the old Apple you know, idea, you know, the old slogan, computing for the rest of us, you know. And that's what it is. A couple more things. Just, you can now record and transcribe audio in notes. So if you're in a lecture, you can record and transcribe, but also phone calls. Although it does let the other person know that you're recording it, which is important and frankly legally required in many jurisdictions. So I love the idea of recording those. And
that Sherlock's audio note and a few other, because I have audio note for that purpose. Right. So that's just Sherlock that one.
Well, and I like the idea of being able to record a phone call, like when I'm calling customer service for companies.
Yes.
I get them on record now as saying things, or just sometimes it's like there's so much going on and I'm like, oh gosh, I forgot step number 2 in this. What was it they said? And I have to try. So now I got that.
Well, can we get it to say that we're doing this for quality control?
This call may be recorded for quality control purposes. I wonder how that works. The notification that it's recording works for people who aren't on an iPhone, but are like even on a landline or a corporate phone. Maybe there's an audible note.
I'm thinking it's going to say it. Either it's going to say it or it's going to beep.
Yeah.
Or both.
It's going to have to, it'll probably say it. Yeah, this call is now being recorded.
Right. So just like Zoom does. Zoom will say that this meeting is being recorded in the beginning and you have to say yes or no to get into it. So I bet you that's how it's going to work.
Yeah. All right. And I think that pretty much covers the breadth and length of it. We've really gotten into the content here. Is there anything else we need to say just to wrap up our discussion of all the announcements?
I think if Apple can pull off 50% of what they've put out there, this is very successful.
Yeah,
I do, because people need to understand, and us too, that not everything that they say they can do happens right away. You know, there are factors in all of this. So be patient, folks. Apple is moving in the right direction. Yes, they do have to sell product, but they're moving in the right direction still as a company, trying to be, you know, careful of people's privacy in this crazy internet land of, you know, all kinds of stuff, landmines.
all the features they demonstrate are this. You have to keep in mind it's a demo, so it's always perfect. It's when it comes out into the real world and we have to try it out. Like one of the features I was most excited about last year was standby mode on the phone. And I found I wasn't really using it that often, and partly because the modes that they give me weren't as useful as I thought they were going to be. And I kind of wish they would improve that. And maybe they will. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens in these OSs that isn't mentioned in the keynote, but happens in the, and so we'll have to see. My plan is to install betas on my phone and my iPad, and my backup Mac, the second public beta. I always wait to the second public beta. But
yeah, that's
you going to do
my plan.
betas? Yeah,
that's my plan. I don't usually do the phone because the phone is the most important. I will do my iPad. I'm debating on whether or not to do my computer because I do have the work computer that needs to stay pristine until the final release. So I'll see. But last year I caved on the phone early, but I waited like 7 betas before I did it. So I'll probably do that again.
I may wait past the second beta for the phone, but there's so much that they're doing now with the phone, and I want to see what's available in the early betas. That's the thing is if a lot of this stuff is still TBD, like, no, it's not even going to be in this fall, but maybe like later this year, I won't necessarily bother right away. But there's a lot of compelling in this that makes me want to jump ahead than I normally would. So we always do picks of the week. So let's finish out with our picks. Joanne, what do you have for a pick this week?
For those of you who are cord cutting like I am, I have 2 apps that are from the same company called Generally Helpful Software. And especially if you're running an HD home run box like I am now, the Signal GH app and the TV Towers app. Now, both of these are to help you point your antenna in the right direction. The first one, the Signal GH, helps you figure out how strong the signal is and the latency of the signal and whether or not a signal is actually being sent out. That has been extremely helpful for me because I'm in a place where there can be a lot of signals, but yet you would think the ones who are closer are better to catch, and they're not. And the ones who are farther away are the ones I'm actually catching. So, but this is really for folks who have the Silicon Dust's HD home run box. I don't know if it'll work for people who have a Tableau, but I switched boxes. That's a whole other bag of hurt we'll talk about another time. That's $2.99, and it's a one-time. The TV Towers app, however, that one is probably, I've had the Antenna Point, and Antenna Point can be good, but the TV Towers app actually tells you this is CBS, this is PBS, this is NBC. The other one just says the name of it in its call letters. And I'm like, well, who the heck is that? I have to go into the app to find out who it is. This one tells you this is plainly what it is, and this is where it is in the compass. So that one I think is $1.99 subscription a month. I may go in and out of that, so I'll probably only use it, when I rescan, because I rescan once a quarter. So I may just turn it on for a month, turn it off. Right now it's on for a little bit because I want to see if it does anything else. But if you're a cord cutter, sometimes finding the right place to point that
right
antenna,
tower.
I've gone through so much frustration trying to, because my antenna's inside, so I can still get at it, but it's still a fraction of an inch will put you into a whole nother realm.
Interesting.
So
the TV Towers app, they say on their site that RV owners are their biggest audience for that, because if you're traveling around, you're going to have different TV towers that you're trying to connect to. So this would be great. I mean, when you, like you said, I'm not moving around, I'm at home, so I don't need to constantly repoint my antenna, except maybe once a quarter because the stations change things.
Well, the world turns, the leaves come out, the leaves go away. So your neighbor may take a tree down or put up, another building or something that gets in the way, like solar panels. So you have to do it every quarter. I do it on the beginning of each season. It's the easiest thing to do. That's a
good point. Make a note in your reminders to tell you. That's good. Excellent. So my app is my pick of the week is an app called Play. Save videos, watch later. This has changed how I use YouTube. It's an app available on Mac, iOS, iPadOS. What it does is it lets you put in access your YouTube account. You can put in whatever YouTube channels you want, and it basically saves the videos into a playlist, and you can categorize, you can tag. And I love this idea because I'm subscribed to a lot of channels, but I don't watch everything everyone puts out. I pick and choose. And so what I do is every day I open up the app and I go to the channels section and I look at what the latest videos are from the channels that I'm subscribed to. And then I just save them, and I save them into my inbox. And, I have a playlist called New, and then I watch them, and you can watch them in the app. I prefer to watch them in Safari because I use a different Safari extension called Vinegar that allows me to speed up the videos and remove the clutter and all that sort of stuff. So I prefer to watch it in the app, but it plays the video, and then the video goes, once I watched it, it goes into my watch section. And now everything I've ever watched it's not downloading the video, but it's all linked from there. And it has the metadata, it has the thumbnail, has the description, I can put notes on the videos, I can tag videos. So like I have tags for food or history related videos or tech related videos, that sort of thing. And it literally has transformed how I watch. It's like a TV guide, if you remember that sort of thing, for YouTube. And it just has been like a game changer for me. I really love it. I would be sad if it went away because now it makes watching YouTube so much better than it used to be. So.
Oh, you're going to make me spend my money again. What's the, it says it as in-app purchases, though. What are we talking about there?
So it's $2.99. What was the in-app purchase? I forget now.
It's not a subscription, is it?
There's a, hold on. What was the, now I'm trying to figure out.
Sorry, I didn't mean to flummox
So
you.
on the App Store page, it says Play Premium is $20. There's a lifetime for $100, which I think means for all updates forever. But let me see here. I'm trying to go to.
Well, I don't trust
website.
Google. Google's forever is a little shorter time.
Yeah.
But I need something like this because of work. Because I follow different subscriptions that I use in my work, and this would be really good to know when the newer one is out. And
so it's not a subscription on the basic for $2.99, but in order to get the channels features, you will need the premium version, which is $2.99 a month, or $20 a year, or $100 for a lifetime. So I'm getting $20 a year worth of value out of this, so I went with that. So
that's a work expense. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, and it gives you all the features, and all those extra features to me are really worth it. But hey, download it, give it a try at the $3 level, and see if it does enough for you there. One of the things you can do is hide YouTube Shorts from the channel listing, which is great because I don't watch YouTube Shorts, and I don't want to see that they're because the shorts are usually just repetition of the content that's in the actual videos. So it seems redundant to me, but it's got a lot of great little features. So check it out. Okay, so That is, I'm just closing things so I can get back to my list. So that does it for us this time. We would love to hear what you thought of any of the part of our discussion. What are you looking forward to in any of the new OSs? What do you think of Apple Intelligence? We'd love to hear your feedback on that. You can do that by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology or the StarQuest Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to technology@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. You'll find links from our discussion, which is mostly our picks of the week. Otherwise, go to apple.com. On our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC259, Tech259. Be sure to write a review of the show in Apple Podcasts or any podcast directory that allows you to rate or review the show, and share the podcast with your friends to help us grow this community and reach more folks. Until next time, Joanne Mercier, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thanks, Dom.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.